Hey guys, welcome to the Gospel Centered Pro-Life Podcast. We have a special treat today for you. We just did, just a couple of days ago, an interview with a young lady, Eboni, who had chosen life and got connected with Vicky. It's just probably one of the most candid interviews and just conversations with a woman that was going for an abortion who changed her mind that I've ever been a part of.
Really, just so honest and sincere and open. It was such a blessing, and to hear her story, truly, I when she told it to me the first time, I was literally crying.
Yeah.
Really
There's a lot
moving.
going on, obviously in our country with this coronavirus thing and all of that. And actually, this story actually has coronavirus thrown in there, and and as a matter of fact, as you guys listen, you're going to hear how coronavirus, in one sense, helped to save a baby's life.
It did. And in fact, I had just come off of a rough day here, and I can't remember what was going on, but it had to do with the coronavirus. And then contacted her and spoke with her and she said basically it was the coronavirus that ultimately, in the first place, saved her baby. And drew her out of that abortion center.
Yeah. Well, so guys, without any further ado, we're going to let you guys listen in on this conversation that we had with Eboni, and I hope you're blessed as you listen. I am yours, I am yours, I am yours, send me, Lord. I am yours, I am yours, I am yours, send me, Lord. I am yours, I am yours, I am yours, send me, Lord, send me, Lord. I felt your passion, I've touched your heart. Well, welcome to the Gospel Centered Pro-Life Podcast. We have today a special guest with us. We shared some months ago, we had a podcast with a young lady by the name of Jamie who chose life. And that was an awesome podcast. We got a lot of good feedback on that, and a lot of people were encouraged. Well, now we have with us today Eboni. Can you say hey, Eboni?
Hey, how are y'all?
We're good. We're good. Our audio is a little less good than it normally is because we've got Eboni on Skype.
Due to coronavirus.
And the coronavirus thing going on has got us having to do this. That's the way that it is. But we do appreciate you coming on, Eboni, and being willing to share your story. Just getting into your story. We encountered you, or Vicky encountered you, and you were connected with her. Can you share a little bit about how you got connected with Vicky?
Yeah, sure. So my brother lives in Charlotte. I live in South Carolina.
Okay.
And I reached out to him. I was kind of like a cry for help. He was a minister at one time in New York, an ordained minister. But anywho, he reached out to Vicky's organization, and Vicky reached out to me.
Okay.
Yeah. We've been connected ever since, and I'm thankful. I am. Yeah, I was telling someone yesterday how God just dropped all these great people into my life, just to kind of let me know, that this is on purpose. This baby's not an accident.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, so we know, just from a little bit I've read and Vicky shared with me your story, that there was a time in your life not too long ago that you were considering abortion, where you didn't feel so much like this baby was a blessing, but maybe a little bit of a burden, and you considered abortion. Can you share a little bit about what was going on in your life, what was going on in your heart and your mind at that time?
Yeah. So when I was with the father of the baby, we were together for 8 years, almost 9 years. And when I got pregnant, I wasn't ecstatic about being pregnant, but, I wasn't necessarily considering abortion.
Yeah.
It did cross my mind a time, and in my early stages, and then I kind of, let that go. Well, 4 days before we were supposed to get married, he um he came to me and told me that he had some news for me, and that he did not want it to affect our marriage. He still wanted to go forward with our marriage. And he told me that he slept with he has two daughters, a 13-year-old and a 15-year-old. He told me that he slept with their mom and she was 2.5 months pregnant. He slept with her on Christmas. And I was devastated. I was
Yeah.
heartbroken. I felt like I just all I could think was that I did not want this baby. I didn't want the attachment. I didn't want to have to do it on my own. I didn't really I wasn't really ecstatic about it in the first place. I didn't look at it as a blessing at 42, when I'm not
Yeah.
married. I looked at it like, I've been sexually sinning, and now this is more like a punishment instead of a blessing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah,
so
I
I
think
made
a lot of folks listening can identify. A lot of the ladies that we've ministered to over the years can identify with that sort of sense of betrayal
Mm-hmm.
and even,
Mhm.
I guess, abandonment, which can be, a fearful place to be in, and also kind of an angry place to be in too.
Yeah.
Was there
Oh
some of
yeah.
that going on, just like almost like just anger at him and just, man, I can't be with this guy.
Yeah, I was angry. I was angry at him. I was angry at myself. As I told Vicky, I was angry at myself for allowing myself to get in this position, but I was angry at him, and I wanted him to hurt. So I just knew I just not gonna have a baby.
Yeah.
Have this attachment, and I ended up scheduling an abortion in New York. New York is the only place that will do an abortion, at 26 weeks.
Uh-huh.
Maybe I think other states, if there's a medical reason and or something like that, but New York will, allow you to do an elective abortion at
Yeah.
26 weeks.
Now, at
And
that
so
time, you live in South Carolina, and at that time you lived in South Carolina. Is that correct?
yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna travel to go get it done.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I got up there. I went up there, and I had my mind made up. I was gonna go and get rid of my baby. And then
Yeah.
when I got up there, the coronavirus was, just establishing itself in New York. It was
Okay.
probably
Yeah.
about maybe 1,500 to 2,000 cases, something like that. Of course, it was growing every day, but um, I was supposed to have the procedure done. It was a 4-day procedure. I was supposed to go on Monday, and then the final procedure would have been on Thursday.
Okay.
Um, in the midst of that, I kind of did some reading about the procedure, and it was gut wrenching, really.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I
Mm-hmm.
still there was still that human part of me that just for some reason I didn't care. I was, and one of the things that I kept saying is, gosh, I'm being so selfish. And really, all I kept thinking about was me, my feelings, how I felt. I cannot take care of this baby by myself. I don't want to be alone. It was just all about me. And
Yeah.
so I decided I'm going to go forward. I'm going to get it done. And so I started reading as I was waiting for the day to come, because I went there on a Thursday. As I was waiting for Monday to approach, I started reading about the procedure, and it's gut wrenching. When you're that far along, first of all, it's a baby. It's a it. I mean, from conception, it is a baby. And people can say, well, not till the heart beats or not till this, and certain things I have mixed feelings about, but it is a baby.
Yeah.
And I saw this baby. She has 12 fingers like I did, and yeah, and still I was still gonna terminate her. And so the procedure is, they put something in you, and then kind of dilates you, and then you come back, and ultimately they dilate you and you deliver the baby.
Yeah.
And they crush the skull, and it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
absolutely heartbreaking.
Well,
That's
Ebony,
still
I'll
the
say just to
Mhm.
jump in a little bit, I'll say, I appreciate your being very candid and being very honest and sharing what was going through your mind and what was going through your heart, because not a lot of folks are willing to come to terms with, you just spoke about how you were being selfish and focused about you, and it was about me and what I felt, and just being open like that is really helpful, for people who are, in my position, who've never been in your position before, to kind of understand the mindset of a woman that would go and have an abortion, especially that far along. Like you said, it's a baby at conception, and that baby, is a human being, it's a person, but when you can actually feel that baby moving inside of you, and you can see very clearly on the ultrasound, 10 fingers and 10 toes, it's a human life. It's a bit of a jump to go to an abortion clinic in New York and to go through all of that. So for you to share, from your heart what you're experiencing is really helpful.
Let me ask you, Ebony, were there any voices speaking against the abortion at this point in your life?
No, actually, before I went to New York, I had I put a gun to my head, and I contemplated suicide. And this is when my brother Hassan stepped in and contacted you guys. I just did not. I just did not want to be here, and I sat in the bathroom, and as I was sitting there, I could hear loud and clear. You know, I could hear, "Go ahead and do it. Pull the trigger. Just takes a second. It'd be all over once you do it. Just go on and pull the trigger. Then you don't have to deal with this anymore." And I just I just, I don't know if it was, although I still did not change my mind at that time about the abortion. Um, I knew that something was not, that wasn't God. That
Yeah.
was,
So what
and
you're describing, and I think a lot of us, everybody has felt at some point, and you probably, you experienced it in a more heightened level. You're experiencing spiritual warfare. You're experiencing lies from the devil, speaking things to you that were obviously not good.
Did you know
that's
that? Did you
exactly.
recognize that? I'm sorry.
No, I was going to
Did
say
you
that's exactly the way Vicky described it to me,
Yeah.
was spiritual warfare.
Yeah.
Vicky, what were you saying? Did I
Well, I
recognize?
was just wondering if you recognized at the time, as you're listening to that voice, what are you thinking? You were thinking, okay, this is not from God. What did you think it was from?
The only way that I can kind of make it picture clear is I just kind of, if you ever see like a cartoon or something where you have the devil on one shoulder and God on the other. I didn't hear God's voice. I didn't. But I knew that I'm not on the devil's team. And so I immediately cried out I said, "God, you got to do something with me. You got to do something with me," because I got in my car and I put that gun in my head, and I was going to pull that trigger. And
Well, I know we're thanking God that you didn't. We're glad we're able to talk to you here, and that
me too.
the Lord, by His grace, protected you from doing that.
Yeah, but what stopped you? I guess I never got that a clear sense of what made you not, because you've got a voice, an almost audible, you said, voice that is saying, pull the trigger, just do it, get it. It sounds very compelling with
I was scared.
all your despair. So
I was
it was
scared.
fear.
I was scared. I was scared because I'm not a person that has never had a relationship with God. If I, you know, stared away or walked away, whatever I've gotten myself into at that moment when when I heard that loud and clear, I was scared. You know, I didn't want to die. Something in me at that moment didn't care. And that voice, probably is what woke me up. Like, no, 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 you can't die. I was afraid, and I thought about
Yeah.
my daughter. My daughter she needs me. I didn't think about my unborn child, but my 8-year-old, she needs me. And if I would have taken my life, you know, who would she be with? I don't have family here, or I
Yeah.
just
Well,
I was
in
just
one
so
sense, I
scared.
think, it's almost like the devil overplayed his hand. He spoke that voice, and then you remembering, because you've been raised around the things of God. From what I've heard a little bit from you, you've at least known about the things of the Lord and His Word, and you knew that voice couldn't have come from God, because God comes to give us life and more abundantly. So I praise God that that you didn't do that. Um, and that you're still able to talk to us, and the Lord is working in your life. If you could, Ebony, talk a little bit about, because after that point, it wasn't like you decided to keep the baby at that point. You still went ahead and went to New York, right? So
Yeah.
what was going through your mind as you were just had that experience, and now you're going to New York to potentially go through with this abortion? What was going through your mind and your heart on the way to New York? Is that spiritual warfare still going on? I'm sure it was.
Yeah, well, when I was contemplating, when I went to when I was gonna take my life, it wasn't even that I felt like hopeless, or I didn't want this baby,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
which was what heightened that feeling. So even after that, that was one hurdle over. Okay, I'm not gonna kill myself. Clearly, that's not the right thing to do. Mackenzie needs me,
Yeah.
but I am still going to get rid of this baby because I don't want this baby. And
Yeah.
I don't know how I'll make it another 4 months pregnant. I don't know how I'll make it. I just won't make it. So um, I just felt like I still didn't want, there was nothing else. There was nothing in me that felt like keeping this baby was the right thing to
Yeah.
do.
Did you drive to New York, or did you take a plane?
I flew. Yeah, I
Okay.
flew to New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like you said at the very beginning of the coronavirus scare and all of that. So people were still
hmm
flying and all of that. It's probably
Yeah.
a pretty I guess surreal thing going on
Yeah.
as you're flying there.
Yeah.
Where did you end up at as far as the abortion clinic there in New York? There's several of them there. Do you know which
Um,
abortion clinic you went to?
it wasn't an abortion clinic. They
Okay.
actually referred me because I've had so many surgeries. Um, I have a lot of scar tissue
Mm-hmm.
and adhesion. So I actually would have had to have my procedure done at Bellevue Hospital.
Okay.
Bellevue and Mount Sinai were the only two, and Bellevue is the one that accepts my insurance.
Yeah.
So my procedure would have been done at Bellevue.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
And so you went there and you kind of checked in at the hospital at that point, or did you even check in?
No, I didn't check in. I just once I got to the point of reading, and I still hadn't changed my mind. It got
Mm-hmm.
to Monday morning, and I was getting myself up and getting myself, I was getting myself ready, and I was looking at CNN, and those numbers were rising, and they had Bellevue was actually one of the hospitals that were housing some of the corona patients.
Okay.
um, and so that with I don't know what it at that point that I said I could die either way.
Yeah.
I could go in there and have an abortion. I can die while they're delivering the baby, because even me being 42, I'm high risk, and I have to have I have to have a hematologist in the room with me because of their fear that I could bleed to death. And I don't think during an abortion they would have cared enough to, especially with Corona going on. There's so many things going on, and these doctors and there. So I don't know if they would have had a hematologist there to make sure that I didn't bleed to.
Yeah.
This is a procedure that I was electing to do. It wasn't, so I didn't know what the care level would be. And then besides that, I just kept thinking, I could die delivering this baby. I could die uh aborting this baby. I could die just walking in the hospital. I could get sick because there's people there. They're housing people with coronavirus. And then the things that I read, I just, it just stopped me. Corona
Yeah.
scared me. There just was no way. Everything was against, the odds. It was just too much. And I just started feeling like that's not the right thing to do,
Yeah.
and God put things in my way to, um, that's how I feel. I feel like he
Yeah.
put things in my way to show me, this is not the right thing to do.
So
Yeah.
He
it,
did speak something to me.
oh,
He did, as I prayed, and he did say to me, if you take a life that doesn't belong to you, the consequences will be worse.
yeah.
And that was after the whole, 'cause this is while I'm in New York. I was like really going through up and down battles, and all I knew is I didn't want this baby. But,
Yeah.
after praying and just, asking God to do something with me, and seeing all these people dying with this virus, and, you know, there's people that can't have kids, and here I am taking away one. And, just the articles I was reading about abortions and the actual procedure that I would have had to go through. It just, he put all of these things in front of me, and it's just not the right thing to do.
So there was a
And
shift at this point where you're actually thinking about God, you're feeling like God was speaking to you, you're feeling like God was putting barriers up. Had you been, and you mentioned praying to God, had that been the case prior to flying out to New York? Had you been praying and feeling like you were hearing God or
no,
even attempting? What was going on in terms of your relationship with God at that point?
I didn't pray on purpose. Um,
Mm,
I didn't pray on purpose because the spiritual side of me, I still read my Bible and things like that, but my carnal mind just took over that. And I haven't been doing, I was still sleeping here with someone, and I wasn't married yet. And so, I still wasn't living the life that I really should have been living. With God, it's either there's no in between,
mm,
black and white. There's really no gray in the middle. You're either in or you're out. And
yeah.
so when I purposely didn't pray, because I didn't want to hear, um, I didn't want him to tell me not to do it. I didn't want him to send someone to, speak to me for him. I
Mhm,
didn't want, you can hear God and deny, that you
mhm,
hear him. That's not God talking to me. That's
mhm.
not God. But he always confirms things. And
Yeah.
so, he could have sent someone to me. I just didn't want to hear anything. And I even had a friend who I was speaking to during this time, and I even told her, I said, I don't want to hear anything about God. So if you're going to talk to me about God, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And so
You
I
didn't want
went
to
through
hear it
that.
because you knew his answer,
I
basically,
knew.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So you're in New York and you're terrified. Basically, Corona, who was killing so many people, saved your baby. I mean, you out of fear of Corona turned away, never went. What happened next? Did you just fly right back home or
I flew back home. Yeah.
and what's
I
going on in your head through all of that? Are you still feeling totally torn up or
No, I actually didn't have any feeling of aborting this baby. It was like a complete shift in that aspect. I did contemplate other things like adoption and stuff like that, but abortion was no longer an option. And I came back home just thinking, wow, I can't believe what I just went through. I it wasn't even, it wasn't even me. I wasn't even myself. And I'm just so thankful because I can't imagine the emotional, maybe mental torment that I would have had to experience after um after that.
Yeah. Well, I
Um
know, just, from my perspective, I've never been in your shoes before. I was a father pretty young, so I know a little bit, from the guy's perspective, but from a woman's perspective, obviously, I don't know. So you to share your heart is really helpful for me, and I know it'll be really helpful for people that are listening because, people think, some folks that, just going into an abortion clinic, women just flippantly go in and they, you've spoken a lot about the selfishness that you were embracing and all of that, but you didn't just go with this thing flippantly. There's some fear and there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of anxiety, a lot of issues in your life. And thankfully, the Lord put things in your path to keep you from going in and doing that. And you heeded his voice in that sense. And we're thankful for that. But the Lord also, after you got back home, also put Vicky in your life, right?
yes.
Yeah. Talk a
Um
little bit about that relationship and just some of the things, because, obviously your situation didn't go away. You weren't in New York anymore. You weren't contemplating abortion anymore, but there's still struggles and those kind of things. What are, as far as the relationship with Vicky, what happened that helped you along in that relationship, if you understand what I'm asking?
um let me say that I sent my brother. My brother is not, he doesn't answer his phone
Okay.
a lot. And
Like
so,
most brothers, let me tell
yeah,
you.
so I sent him a picture of me with that gun to my head. And it
Right.
was more like, hey, I need you to call me. This is serious. I didn't say that. I just sent him the picture.
Yeah.
And he called me back right away, and this, of course, is before I left for New York. But
Okay.
he had reached out to Vicky's organization. He reached out to them before I let that day. He was calling people, and I called a suicide. He said, call this number, call this number. There's the suicide hotline. And I called, and it was not, it didn't, that wasn't what helped. I would, that hotline I called because I was scared. I didn't want to kill myself, but I felt like if I got to carry this baby, I'm out of here. I'm not doing this. And so anyway, when I got back from New York, I guess that, that request for help, to reach out to me had already gone out. And so now I'm back, and, I'm home, and I'm back to work and just trying to get myself back to some kind of normality. And then my brother texted me. He said, hey, there's someone trying to reach out to you. When are you available? And I'm going to be so completely honest. I am not the person that will follow through with something like this. I'm not. I normally just try to just take care of whatever I need to on my own without.
Basically, you don't like people in your business, right?
Yeah, that,
Yeah, no, I get it.
that's about it.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
yeah, I get it.
I tried to sugarcoat that thing a little bit, but you got me, Daniel. You got me.
Hey, I'm kind of like that too.
um, but Vicky, she called me. I think on a Thursday, my day off. Uh, she reached out to me, and I talked to her for over an hour, and she was just like, we talked about God, and we talked about, she kind of she asked me questions, like, what does it mean, that you're saved? What do you think that means? And, she just really got me to thinking about what Jesus Christ really, she had me remember,
Yeah.
what does Jesus Christ mean to you? And he should be the focal point of my life, because nothing's going to work without that. People think that they're happy, and it's not happiness. That's why you have, people think money makes them happy. And that's why you have all these rich people that are committing suicide and things like that. That's not happiness. And so talking to her was just, it was like God just sent the angel to me, and I didn't ask for anything. She's just been a blessing, offering counseling services that I'm very excited to take. I have a mentor now that I speak to every day. Yep, Teresa, she's awesome. I speak to Shelly, and I just want, I've decided to keep my baby. I'm not going to give her up for adoption. I'm going to keep her. And Vicky, it's nothing that they were going to do. They have all of this help and just spiritual help and just being there for me. Vicky checks in on me, and she's just been such a blessing. And it's nothing physical or financial or anything that anyone can or is doing for me that makes me feel that way. I'm just so grateful that God sent them to me, because it has helped me to um, just kind of keep moving in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really
A
has,
lot of
because
times
it's
in our
so
lives,
easy. Mm-hmm.
yeah, I was gonna say a lot of times in our lives, it's not like you said the physical things, or for some people it is financial lack and all these other things, but some of the most important aspects of a struggle like this and us getting through a struggle is people around you that are encouraging you, people that are,
Mm-hmm.
holding you accountable and speaking the truth to you in love, but encouraging you along too. People like Shelly and like Teresa, your mentor, and then Vicky. I know in my life, people who encourage me along, it's like, I don't know if I could have made it through without that encouragement,
Right.
So I appreciate
Mm-hmm.
you sharing that, because
Mm-hmm.
that's a powerful thing that we all can do for
Yeah.
other people, is
What
encourage them.
what what I know you were thinking about after abortion was off the table, then adoption was very much, I think, in your thoughts. What changed? What happened that made you decide you would like to parent your baby?
Um, for one, Mackenzie, my daughter, she is, she said to me, she said, "Mom, I'm lonely."
Oh.
And and I don't think that God would have given me the opportunity. There's so many people that can't have children. It could be a gift either way. A person
Yeah.
that can't have children, I could bless them with a child, but God gave her to me.
Mhm.
And so I think that, he feels like, I gave her to you because you can do it.
Yeah.
And so, and I'm here to help you. And I will say, even with, Vicky telling me, we'll have a baby shower for you and stuff like that. I was sitting yesterday, and I was praying, and I just was like, Lord, thank you,
Mm.
because these are not things that I've asked for. And he's just letting me know, you're gonna, what are you concerned about? Are you concerned about taking care of, or not being able to take care of a child that I gave to you? Haven't I provided for you the whole time you had Mackenzie? And I
Mm.
and I was afraid of having her. I didn't consider, the thing. I wasn't in the mindset that I was in with this child, but I was afraid, like, goodness,
Mm.
how am I gonna take care of baby? My money is not right, and babysitting, and he hasn't felt me yet. Mackenzie has always had someone to watch her. Even if it's been a struggle, if I had to take her to New York for the summer with my sister or whatever it is, that it's always been a way made, and it's the same way this time. And it just made me see, he is gonna provide. I don't
Yeah.
have anything to be afraid of.
Mm.
And he thought of me to be able to conceive at 42, even
Right.
though it was out of sin. He still allowed me to conceive. And like Vicky said, I don't know what this baby, could bring into this world.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It could be the next president, the first female president. We just
Yeah.
don't know. And who I was going to take her away. I was gonna take her away, and I have to work now on forgiving myself for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I that's really been for the past couple of weeks. That's really been the thing that comes back to
Mhm.
me, is just forgiving myself for even thinking to go in that direction.
Right,
Um,
right. But if you've repented before the Lord and the Lord died a horrific death for you to pay the penalty for your sin, and He has forgiven you when you repented and turned from that sin, you know,
I know.
ultimately we have to just figure if He can forgive us, we definitely need to forgive
Forgive
ourselves. But you
ourselves.
do have something to worry about because there's going to be a big fight here in Charlotte about who gets to give you the baby shower.
Oh no. Oh my goodness.
So we do know it's a girl.
It's a
Is that
girl.
correct? It's a little girl.
Her
Okay.
name is Zeta Sky.
Vega Sky.
Zeta.
Zeta.
Zeta. Zeta
Wow.
Sky. Yeah.
Zeta Sky. That's a beautiful name. Does it have a meaning? Is there a special
Um,
meaning?
no, Zeta is prosperous and peaceful, I want to say. And Sky, I don't know. It just kind of came to me, but yeah.
Very pretty. And
Yeah.
when are you due?
July 5th.
Okay.
Wow. Right after Independence Day. May
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
come on
Yeah.
Independence Day. Yeah.
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 It's an amazing story, Ebony.
Yeah. Yeah. We really
Thank you.
appreciate you sharing it, Ebony. Appreciate all that, again, you just being very open and honest about what was going through your heart and your mind and all of that is, that's a rare quality for a person to be that open. And we appreciate that.
And can I ask you one more question? And Daniel may have others also, and I may end up having others, but what would you say to someone in a desperate situation like you were? What would you tell them that might give them hope and the ability to turn from that destructive path of abortion?
I would say that when that baby is conceived, uh, that is a baby.
Hmm.
It is a life, and as God said to me, if you take a life that doesn't belong to you, the consequences will be worse.
Hmm.
And we don't want to know what that means. We don't want to have to experience those type of consequences. And there's other options. There is adoption. And although I decided not to go that route for my own reasons, there are people out here that are not able to conceive, and they can't afford to pay thousands of dollars to have you know labs do things to in vitro and stuff like that.
Hmm.
They would be so blessed to have a child, to raise your child for you. And there's all kind of different options with adoption now, where you can still be a part of the baby's life, kind of, if you want to. But
Hmm.
abortion is murder. It is it. And my brother said something so harsh to me. And when he said it to me, when I say I wanted to swear at him, I wanted to curse him out
Hmm.
and say, how dare you say something like that? But he said, would you take a gun and shoot Mackenzie in the head? And I
Hmm.
said, how dare you? How dare you? I did everything but curse. I did everything
Yeah.
but
Hmm.
curse.
Hmm.
But when I thought about it, it is murder. And it's just, I've never met this baby, but I feel her moving. And, you know, my daughter and I and my son were born with 12 fingers instead of 10. And when I saw the sonogram, she has 12 fingers just like me.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
And,
I was wondering about that when you said that earlier.
We thought you made a mistake.
Yeah, he corrected me
that's
like 10 fingers, 10
awesome.
toes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I would just say, please, don't abort your baby. You know, there's all kind of help, and you know, local churches, and there's other options for you. Don't kill your baby.
Amen.
Yeah. Amen, Ebony.
Yeah.
Give me an outlet for love. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Gospel Centered Pro-Life Podcast. We hope it was a blessing to you. If you'd like to get in touch with us, email me at dparks@cityforlife.com. And please check out our Sidewalks for Life site, sidewalks4life.com. God bless. Since I met you,